Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fit Chicks Academy Women Transformation Conference, where we will help other women get out of being stuck, trying and failing at health and wellness complicated strategies out there by distilling them down into easy, actionable habits or hacks that will really help you implement transformation in your health and your life starting today. Now, today's session is brought to you by our incredible expert, Kathleen Trotter. Hello, Kathleen.
Hello.
Now, Kathleen is a fitness expert, media personality, personal trainer, writer, author of Finding Your Fit, a compassionate trainer's guide to making fitness a lifelong habit and your fittest future self, making choices today for a happier, healthier, fitter future. Kathleen has lived the health hero's journey as well. And Kathleen owns her own boutique fitness studio in downtown Toronto. Her studio is home to her thriving personal training and coaching business. Outside of her studio, Kathleen presents as a motivational speaker at outlets such as the University of Toronto and Cisco and makes frequent media appearances on television shows, including Rogers Ottawa, Breakfast Television, CTV, and CHCH Hamilton. Kathleen spent more than 8 years writing for the Globe and Mail and Huffington Post. Her website and Facebook page have been included in the multiple best fitness blog lists such as Flockbrain and OTH Fit Top 100. Kathleen holds a master's degree in exercise science from the University of Toronto and a nutrition diploma from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. She has a level 3 life coach certification and is a level 2 nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. Today, Kathleen will be sharing with us her thoughts around cardio versus strength training, which is best for the best results. Now, we are not just going to be learning about cardio versus strength training, but we're also going to be looking at it and helping you build your best body from the inside out. So not only will she be breaking down this topic today, but she'll also be including 3 fast, simple, actionable items and strategies that you can implement into your life today to help you move forward towards your own transformation. So Kathleen, welcome. I am so excited to have you here today.
Well, you know that I love talking to you. We always have such awesome conversations. I love your energy. And I really like that your mission aligns with mine, which is working out to become a healthier, happier, more vibrant version of you. It's not about body shame. It's about empowerment. Fitness changed my life. I grew up, very overweight, very unhappy, hated being in my own skin. And now I'm kind of like, yo, I'm here. And that's awesome. It's nice to be able to go into a room and feel, for the most part, pretty good about who you are and what you're there to say. So I'm hoping that everybody listening is ready to kind of get their empowerment on.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, it really is about empowerment and transformation. And that's so why we are so grateful to have you here as a guest speaker on the Women's Transformation Summit today, because this whole summit was dedicated, and this whole virtual conference was dedicated to the idea of transformation and change, but looking at it from the inside out and looking at it
Yeah.
from a personal approach and taking fast, actionable steps to be able to get there. So, when it comes to the topic at hand for today, we're talking about cardio versus strength training. Now, oftentimes people weigh them out and think one is better than the other. So, I would love to just hear your opinion on that piece. And then, if you can share the 3 simple strategies or the 3 simple steps that somebody today listening can implement in their life to be able to move forward in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm laughing or smiling because this idea of like what is better, it's actually one of my bugaboos about the fitness industry. And I think that it sort of almost pits us against ourselves. And in the end, it doesn't serve us because we try to find the perfect workout. And honestly, it ends up being this analysis paralysis of like, well, this is going to be better than this is going to be perfect. And then you don't do anything because it's like you're waiting for the perfect, right? And to be honest, there's always pros and cons to everything. And it's nothing is sort of better. It depends on what your goals and what's going to help you reach your goals. And your goal is going to be different than like your father's goal or your mother's goal or your favorite celebrity. Or honestly, it's probably going to be different than your goal 10 years ago and your goal in 10 years. So it's really about becoming an educated consumer of fitness knowledge. So you can say like, okay, so this is what strength training is. This is what cardiovascular training is. This is who I am, right? I want to run a marathon. I want to become really functionally fit. I want to be able to carry my groceries home. I want to be able to box. I want to play hockey. My dad's almost 80, and he said to me a couple of days ago, Kathleen, I'm going to do another year of hockey, so I got to get in shape. And so for him, he doesn't care about a beach body. He cares about being able to get on the ice and have balance and not hurt himself. My mom was just telling me earlier that she's really worried that she's developing osteoporosis. So she's like, okay, Kathleen, you got to give me, a strength training routine to help me in my hips. And like, I want to be able to be healthy and vibrant and vital for the rest of my life. So what I love about that is they have their own goals, and one goal is not better or worse, but the program they need to take, the steps they need to take to reach their goals are very different. So I want people listening to think, okay, get away from the better, get away from the perfect, get away from trying to find this like ideal solution, and understand that health and wellness really is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong mission. What is going to be slightly better for you at one point in your health career is going to be different. And the trick is to start to understand who you are, not compare yourself to others, not sort of say, well, that person's goal is to lose 20 pounds. Maybe you've had it, dealt with an eating disorder for your entire life. So your goal is going to be very different than the woman who hasn't suffered from that, right? It's like your goal right now might be to not think about food, to more do intuitive eating, to strength train and work out to feel good, but not have to have really individualized detailed goals, because that gets you back in your head of that, like the self-survey mindset, right? So you got to know who you are, what your life realities are. Maybe you have 3 kids and you don't have the time to dedicate, an hour a day to structured exercise. So maybe you need to be that busy multitasker that, walks to work or does exercise with their kids or does a family fitness adventure, like a challenge where people are trying to get steps. So I guess the first thing I would say is know you, be you, and make sure you're matching what you're doing and what is quote unquote better to where you want to get. But I also wanted to step back. I think also what's really important is to just know, like, what is strength training? What is cardiovascular training? I think, again, like a lot of these things get really thrown around. We read magazines and they're like, get a beach body and do these exercises. And first of all, you're like, is even that beach body realistic? Is that something that I want? Is the work that I would need to put in to get that beach body even worth it? Because that's the thing, is like, you have to make sure that what you're willing to put in matches your goal, because you probably could lose, a certain amount of weight or get a beach body, but could you really, like, is it worth cutting out all the foods that you love and, giving 2 hours a day to that goal? Like, maybe instead you're like, what, I don't need to lose 20 pounds. I'd love to just lose 3 pounds, feel better in my clothes and feel a little bit stronger. And that's great. And that's cool. Okay, so let's step back first. Let's go through, what are the benefits of strength training? What are the benefits of cardio? What are these 2 things? Then you can start thinking as you listen to this, oh, interesting. Okay, that's a benefit. That's something I care about, right? And then let's talk about how you can start to think about how they complement each other. Okay. And then I'll give you my 3 actionable steps. So go through that. I tend to have this time. I love all these topics so much. So I kind of get like the cart before the horse and I start to like talk about all this stuff. So I'm going to step back and make this up. So strength training, think resistance training, think, body weight calisthenics, push-ups, squats. It's anything where you're moving against a weight, where you're resisting something. So typically, think barbell bicep curls, triceps. You can take a resistance band, you can do reverse flies, anything like that. So weights, resistance training, really so good for increasing your overall metabolism, increasing or maintaining bone density. So super important, especially if you're female, if you're worried about osteoporosis, really important for decreasing your risk of fractures, important for overall strength and functionality. So decreasing the risk of injury. So if you're somebody who's their entire life has sort of bent over and hurt your back, okay, so maybe your core needs strengthening. If you're worried about posture, that's really connected to strength training, upper back strength. If you're also worried like coordination, agility, if you play a lot of sports, so strength training is going to help you both have the forces to dissipate the forces needed for your sport, and also have the power in your sport to hit that baseball, to catch the ball without hurting your shoulder, right? Like if somebody's throwing a ball at you and you catch it, if you're not strong, your shoulder gets whipped off, right? So we don't really think about how strength makes such a huge difference in our lives. You need to be able to pick up your kids or pick up your grandkids, or if you have a dog, take the dog for a walk. a lot of people, when they get a dog, for example, if you're not strong, the dog is on the leash, it pulls you, and then they'll develop shoulder issues or lower back issues. So the thing, everyday life really requires a lot of functional strength. So that's a really important thing. Controlling your blood sugar levels, reducing the risk of cancer, cardiovascular health, all of that is connected to being stronger. Type 2 diabetes, all of those things. Your just overall sense of well-being, your mental health. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm having a day where I'm feeling like, oh, like I just don't have agency in the world, like nothing I do matters, and I'm feeling like a little bit just like helpless, you go do a strength workout, you're like, yes, I can push things, I can pull things. And it's like, it sets you up for the rest of the day. You're like, okay, if I have control over this, if I can do this amount of squats, if I can do this amount of lunges, I can kind of kick ass for the rest of the day, right? So it's such a mindset. So all of those reasons why strength training are really good. So again, you don't have to be an athlete to be athletic, meaning like we all need athleticisms in our daily life. If you're going to go carry home groceries, that requires the strength. So I think a lot of times people think, oh, strength training, it's that beefy, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like if I don't want to get big guns, I don't need to do strength training. And it's just so not true. And that's where we get into this tricky part of like better, like it's not better. Okay, I'm going to take myself as a runner, right? So running is in the cardiovascular bucket, and that is aerobic. So it's really great for strengthening your heart and your lungs, whereas strength training is more anaerobic. So it doesn't use oxygen as fuel, it uses glucose. But something like running, I love it. It's my bliss. If I am in a bad mood, I go for a run, I feel free, I feel awesome. But if you're not strong, you're not going to be able to run injury-free, because every time your foot hits the ground, your body has to dissipate up to 6 times your body weight. So your butt has to be strong, your core has to be strong, your posture has to be strong. You have to have good balance, right? And those are things that you get by strength training. So I always tell my clients, you don't get in shape by running, you get in shape to run. And that's for so many things. Any sport, if you want to go water skiing, if you want to go swimming, again, if you want to play softball, if you want to just go biking with your grandkids or your kids, like if you want to have the stamina to get through a crazy day, like I don't know about everybody listening, but like this last 2 years has been insane. So the stronger, more endurance you have, the more you'll just be able to sustain life and be like, yeah, this is crappy, but like I can keep going. So this is really where you get this idea of they complement each other. So yeah, cardiovascular fitness is normally where people go if they want to lose weight, because you do burn more calories while you're in the cardio session, but you don't get as much of an increase in your resting metabolic rate after the cardio, right? So this is where people will say, well, strength training burns fewer calories during it, but more like overall during your day. And then during the cardio is where you'd actually burn, a couple hundred calories. But I mean, that's a whole nother topic we could get into, whether we need to worry so much about calories and calories in and out and all that stuff. I won't go there, but I will say that, if you're thinking, okay, but my goal is weight loss, it's so much more complicated than just how many calories you burn while you're doing your workout. And if you are worried about burning calories during your workout, the stronger you are, the more you'll be able, the longer your cardio sessions are going to be. Like if you go for a run and your quads and your legs are weak and you start to feel your knees and you have to stop, well, you're only going to be able to run for a couple of minutes, right? But if you're stronger and you can dissipate those forces and you have the endurance to keep going, then you will be able to get the benefits of the cardio relative to that calorie burn. So I really want people to start to think like, yes, they have benefits and, pros and cons to both. And you want to match and get more of the pros for whatever your goal is. And I stress that is so important, is knowing yourself. But no matter what, you need a mixture of both. So it's never, ever going to be you do one or the other. What it is what's the proportion that you do, right? So if you were a guy or a girl who wanted to put on muscle bulk, you might have to strength train 5 days a week and do a really intense 45 minutes to an hour strength training workout. Maybe you do the German volume where it's like 10 sets of 10 and you're lifting really heavy weights. Great. That would be a higher proportion of your workouts. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for some walks during the day. Like it just doesn't mean because, yes, I want to put on bulk that I sit on my butt the rest of the time after my strength training. Like, no, you still need to have those lifestyle steps. You still need your ticker, your heart needs to be strong enough to lift those weights, right? Like if you have a really weak heart, you go to lift heavy weight, and it's like, it's not going to aid you. So no matter your goal, both are important, but it's the proportion of what you do and the intensity of what you do, and the duration, right? So if your goal is to run a marathon, that's a very different cardiovascular plan than if your goal is to have endurance to, hang out with your grandkids and be able to garden and walk, right? And in general, the more intensity things like marathons, that's actually a lot of stress on your body. So it wouldn't be something that you would actually want to do forever and always, training for a marathon every single day for the rest of your life. You need those breaks because that's a lot of stress you're putting on your heart. So I think being able to step back is really important, and look at the bigger picture and get away from this what's perfect, what's best, and just sort of think, okay, so where am I at? Where are the things that I care the most about? So where am I going to put, proportionally speaking, the most amount of energy? But also the things that I care about, how could they possibly cause injury, or what are the downside of that? And then how can I mitigate that? So again, we'll just go back to my dad who's training for hockey. Like that's his primary goal. But he's almost 80, so his balance is not quite as good. And he's had a couple ankle issues over his years of hockey. So his ankle strength. So like for him, he needs to do his ankle strengthening exercises, or he won't be able to stay and be stable on the ice, and he'll get injured. So those are the kind of things I want you to start thinking about, of like, okay, so what's my primary goal? What do I need to get to that goal? But also, what could my primary goal possibly negatively, and how could it negatively impact my life? And then what are steps that I could take so I don't, that negative thing doesn't happen, or it's less likely that it would happen. I don't know. So Amanda, did I sort of cover everything of pros and cons, benefits? Do you feel like I need to go into anything else?
No, I think that was very, very thorough, and I think understanding the idea around that they are very complementary. I know that the title of this is like which is better for best results, but really and truly, what you've shared is that they are both complementary. They are both
Yes.
just equally as important, but for
Yes.
different reasons and for different
Yes.
outcomes. And so it really
Yes.
is just about taking a step back, having that bird's eye view, and saying, what is
Yeah.
important to me right now? And that could shift and change in a month
Yes.
from now, in 3 months from now, in a year from now.
Yes.
But for the moment, what is your goal and why is this important? And will what I'm doing today, my actions today, help me reach that goal? And if not,
Yes.
then it's just about rejigging it. Now,
Yeah.
I know now you're going to be able to share with us like 3 actionable steps that people can do in order to be able to create that plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to really think
Yes.
about
That's the next step.
what is the best approach. So
Yes.
I will leave that to you. Thank you.
Okay, good. One more quick thing before I get into the 3 actionable steps. I think that an overarching concept is what you just said. I'm just going to put it in a slightly different way. You said, like, what is my goal and what do I need to do now? And I think that part of the issue with fitness is that our goals always happen in the future, and we often get really caught up in like, oh, I want to do that, I want to lose weight, I want to run the marathon. But if you don't have control over this moment, the fitter future you will never come into fruition. That's why my second book is called Your Fittest Future Self. But the idea is that you have to harness the ability to act now. So one of the reasons why I really dislike this idea of like what's best is it gets into this idea of, okay, like once I figure out what's best, once I figure out what's perfect, I'll do it, and I'll do it tomorrow. And I really try to instill in my clients, just do something now. Even if it's not the best, it's better than doing nothing. So as soon as you're done listening to my speech, get up, go for a 5-minute walk, have some water, do a few stretches. It might not be like, the best celebrity workout, but it'll get you a positive step in the right direction. And then as you go for a 10-minute walk, you can think about everything we've talked about. You can think of, okay, so I've learned that strength training is really great for, bone density and overall metabolism. So I'm not really doing any strength training right now because I was worried about getting jacked. So now I know that that's not going to happen. So maybe I need to make sure I'm doing 2 to 3 20-minute sessions a week. Okay, what's convenient, right? So you can start to percolate, but you can percolate on it while you're walking versus percolating on it sitting on the sofa watching Netflix, right? So it's like, take a step, even if it's not the perfect step, but it's in the right direction while you think about all this stuff. And I think that's a really key point. Yeah, it's right.
I love
And
that.
it's,
I love that so much. And I think, for everyone listening, that's actually just a point that like, it's also looking at how you can implement small strategies into your day every single day, starting right away. I know even
mhm,
for me, taking any conference call I have booked, any call I have booked in with me, I always go, I call it a walk and talk. And I go outside and I go for a walk and I have my headset on and I have a conversation. I might be walking really slow, especially if I have to talk a
Yeah,
lot,
but it
right?
doesn't
So then
matter. You're
or
still
if it's really
moving.
windy or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like, I'm moving rather than sitting because I still have to have the call. So it's thinking about those kind of elements. And I know we're talking about cardio versus strength, and this is not necessarily in line with that, but it's the idea of
Yeah.
implementing something every day and
Yes.
starting, even if it is just starting small, to get to those bigger goals is amazing. And
Yes.
I encourage you to, I encourage everybody listening to be able to just start thinking about small, simple ways that you can start implementing smaller
Yes.
strategies
Yes.
towards that larger goal.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I actually do think it is connected to cardio versus strength, because I think that with those two things, people often think, okay, well, I have to be able to dedicate an hour to strength training or it's not worth it. Or I have to be able to do full 45-minute run or it's not worth it. And the thing with health and wellness is that our health is an aggregate of all of the choices that we make. It all adds up. And something is always going to be better than nothing, because you want to think consistency over perfection, and you want to think start and tweak later, right? If you never start, you have nothing to tweak. But if you start, then and you automate the fact that you're doing stuff, then you can always tweak the program as you go. So if you're thinking like, oh my God, okay, Kathleen it's made it very clear that I need to strength train. I wasn't strength training because I thought I only just needed to burn calories to lose weight, and that's my goal. Okay, so Kathleen has said I need to strength train, but that's so overwhelming. What do I do? What's the perfect workout? 5 minutes, get a resistance band, do squats, biceps, overhead triceps, right? Or go on my website, find a workout. Like, stop worrying that it has to be the perfect, stop worrying that it has to be an hour, and think consistency first. Like, honestly, that's so key, because you can build on that as you go. So consistency over complexity. So yeah, so 3 actionable steps. I'm actually going to replace one of my steps with that, which is just stop overthinking it, stop putting it off till tomorrow, and do one thing every day that aids your fitness journey. Because if you think about it as a journey and you think of it as something that you're on for the rest of your life, there's no end goal. Like, yeah, you might set a goal of like, I want to lose 10 pounds, but guess what? Guess what? Once you get to that 10-pound weight loss, you still like, it's not then you're like, you throw up your hands and be like, oh, well, now I'm just going to sit and watch TV and eat bonbons. Like, it still continues. So I think the first step is just really appreciating that this moment is the moment that you have the most control over, and that you can set goals, but the larger goal is just overall health and awareness. So whatever the small goals you set are, you don't get there and then stop. And that's, I think, the issue a lot of people have. They're like, okay, I'm going to do cardio for a month. I have a vacation or a wedding. I want to lose 10 pounds. And then they get to that goal and they're like, done. It's like, no, that's one step. That's one small goal on a longer path. Okay. So that will be my first actionable step. Do one thing today that's a little bit scary, that's not perfect, but that does set you on your health goal. My original first step was going to be set your goals. So we'll pretend they're both my first one. Today, think about what your actual goal is, and think about it relative to you as a human being. Forget about everybody else. What is realistic for you? How much time do you have? How much money do you have? What are you willing to actually dedicate to this process? Not what do you think you should dedicate to the process, right? But what are you actually willing to? So you might think you should do an hour a day, but if that's not realistic, is it 20 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? So set a goal that meshes with you and your life realities, knowing that the goal can change. Okay, so that's the first thing. And take into account your exercise history, your injuries in the past, right? If you always get injured when you run, maybe you need to do more strength training and do less running, or maybe you need to progress into it slower. Okay, so step number 1, set your goals. They're unique to you. Step number 2, make sure that you're setting goals, not wishes. And this is really key, because most of us we set really, they're big and they're unrealistic and they're not connected to who we are. So they're like, oh, I got to lose some weight. Okay, well, what does that mean? Is it 5 pounds? Is it 10 pounds? I want to get in shape. Well, what does that mean? Does getting in shape mean you are able to do 5 push-ups, 10 push-ups? So really think about making the goal not only realistic to you, but also very detailed. So because otherwise you'll never know when you hit it. If you just sort of say, I want to get in shape, well, listen, if you go for a little bit of a walk, you're more in shape than you were before the walk. So then you've hit that goal. So then you can stop, or that maybe you haven't hit the goal because you're not quite in shape enough. Like, it's very hard if the goal is sort of up in the air to know if you're being successful. So one of my podcasts I really like is The One Thing. And they always talk about this idea that what a goal does is just show you how to act appropriately in every moment. So if you have a goal, then you can sort of work backwards and think, okay, how do I have to act in the next month to get that goal, in the next 2 months? And it tells you what you need to do. We get back to that like in this moment. So it's the appropriate acts that will get you from here to there. And I will often say that's your WWWH of your goal, right? So when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it in the morning before work? Are you going to do it at lunchtime? Is your gym going to be just like your living room? So if that's the case, and you have to learn to set an out of office reply. Say, I have gone to the gym. Close down your computer. And even if the gym is literally half a foot away, you have to be able to have that mindset, right? So that's the where are you going to do it? What are you going to do? Are you going to run? Are you going to walk? Are you going to lift weights? Are you going to do yoga? Right? Are you going to do Pilates? And how are you going to get it done? So that's like, what accommodations do you need to make? So if you are a mom of 3 or a dad of 4, right? Do you have to get your partner involved and say like, okay, I'm going to work out in the morning. You'll take care of the kids in the morning. And then you can do the workout in the afternoon and I'll take the kids that shift, right? Like you can't just wish for it. It doesn't just because you set a goal doesn't just magically happen, right? I think a lot of times we think that the goal, there's a little bit of survivorship bias, right? Because people who are successful, when you say, how did you do it? They said, well, I set a goal and then I did it. So you think that the reason why they're successful is they set a goal, but it's just not true. Like so many of us, how many times have you set goals that you just haven't like followed through on? So the setting of the goal doesn't do anything if you don't create the steps needed, if you don't figure out the WWWH of that goal. And then the H, the how, is really connected to the final step, which is you have to set up systems that save yourself from your future self. And honestly, if people get anything from this talk, that's what this is, because brain works on what's called present bias. So what that means is it thinks that however you feel in this moment is how you will always feel. So if you're like, I'm really motivated, I'm going to lose that 10 pounds. Your brain is like, I don't have to set in any systems because I'm always going to be this motivated, but you won't, because motivation is akin to an emotion. It comes up, it goes down. You're going to have a bad day at work. You're going to be sleeping and not want to get out of bed. And you're going to be like, screw it. I'm not going to do it. You need systems that tie your future self, your less motivated self, up. So there's that Greek myth of Odysseus. He's the sailor, and the boats before him have gone, and they've gotten tempted by these sirens, these beautiful women. And every sailor that goes out says, "I'm not going to be tempted by these women. I'm going to be strong enough to resist." Right. So think of the sirens, these beautiful women, as like the candy bar that you want to eat, or the workout that you want to skip, or in my case, the like chocolate I want to eat. Okay, so cool. Those sirens exist. Everybody in this world has triggers and sirens. They might have fewer of them. You might have conquered some of them. You might have better willpower than others. But if you tell me that you don't have one trigger, that I just don't believe you. You're lying to me or yourself. And even if the trigger is just like, I get tired and I want to sit, and sit and watch Netflix, that's cool. And that's great. We all should have things that we enjoy eating and things that we enjoy watching. But you also have to know that that is going to exist. So that the sirens are going to be there. And what Odysseus did was he got his crew to tie themselves up. So when the sirens came and they wanted him to come and turn the boat, he literally couldn't go. Now, he wanted to, but he couldn't. And that's what we all have to do. We have to appreciate that how you feel in this moment is not going to be how you always feel. And therefore, what are the ways that you can tie yourself up? Can you get a fitness buddy? Can you get a personal trainer? Can you join a new workout that you find really, really fun, like a group Zumba class or an online yoga class or something where you're like really excited, a group that's an accountability. I don't know. Can you join Weight Watchers or something else like that keeps you accountable? Can you set your clothes out the night before so you have that cue? I actually sleep in my exercise clothes a lot of the time, because when I wake up and I'm in exercise clothes, I'm like, oh, well, might as well work out. I'm already in my clothes. So what can you set your running shoes by the door, right? Can you not bring food in the house that you're going to binge on? The story I tell a lot is that I love fudge bars. So I buy them and I leave them at my mom's house. And when I want one, I go for a walk, I hang out with her, I have a fudge bar, because it's not worth not eating the things you love. But if I have them in my freezer, I'll have like 10 of them. I don't need an entire box of fudge bars, but I do want one fudge bar because fudge bars are great. So, setting a goal that's realistic for yourself, right? That's first step. That's really, really key. Making sure that it's a specific goal. It's not a wish. That's really, really key. And then being smart and not thinking that you're this superhuman person. Like, we are all only human, and being human is an amazing thing to be. It allows us to love, it allows us to laugh, it allows us to snuggle with our puppy dogs and love our kids and have emotions and cry and be happy. And I wouldn't give up any of those things. But with those things, with the ability to have emotions, comes the ability to have emotions, which means you're going to have an emotion where you're like, freaking hell, I've had the worst day ever. I want 16 glasses of wine, or whatever. I want 10 fudge bars. And I need to have the ability in that moment to be like, well, I might want those fudge bars, but I've tied myself up. And because I know that my future self is not going to be happy if I have them. So I want everybody listening to start thinking about, what are their triggers? What are their sirens? Not as a shaming thing, we all have them. It comes with being human. So acknowledge and accept that you're human and all of that wonder, and step back and just sort of be like, okay, I am human. How can I set my very human self up for success with a little bit of grace, with a little bit of laughter, with a little bit of love? How can I be my friend to myself? And how can I step out of what's best, what's perfect, what's better, and just realize that it is about figuring out what works for me, being an intelligent, informed consumer, and knowing that every single thing in life has pros and cons, right? There is a cost to every decision, and you have to decide what is the cost that you're willing to take, what are the pros that you want, and how to mitigate any of the cons.
Wow, Kathleen, dropping so much knowledge. That went from, should I do cardio or strength, to just like Greek mythology and stuff. Unbelievable, Kathleen. As always,
Thank you.
as always, just so much knowledge. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Now, I would also love for you just to share a little bit more, because I know that everything that we're really talking about here today, too, is thinking about setting yourself up for success. Would you mind sharing with our listeners a little bit more about your free gift that you have for them?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So my free gift is a copy of both of my books. So my first book is Finding Your Fit. And it really is just how to start. It's lots of actionable steps. It talks about goals versus wishes, that idea of how to ride the wave of motivation. It's really based on my original story, which is, I spent the first half of my life very unfit as a child of divorce. I just sort of ate my way through life. I really didn't love myself. Or even like myself, to be honest. And my mom tried to get me doing all these sports, and I hated gym class. And basically one day my mom just said to me, okay, Kathleen, being active is a non-negotiable. And I realize that I've been trying to make you be active in ways that just really don't suit you. So we have to find a solution. And that solution is, we're going to get, for me anyway, at that time, is like, we're going to get you a membership to the YMCA, because the demographic for the Y was sort of, below 5 and over 40. And I felt more comfortable with people who were older than me versus my peers. And I just started walking on the treadmill and, doing some aerobics. And it would just really went from like a 10-minute walk to a 20-minute walk to strength training to taking aerobic classes to teaching aerobics classes. And anyway, I found my fit as the message that I'm trying to instill in this book, and really trying to say, like, if my mother hadn't said, get away from what everybody else your age is doing, stop thinking about what's best, stop thinking about what you should do, let us just figure out a solution, I would not be the person I am today. And so I want people reading that book to think, it's not about the shoulds. It's not about criticizing myself. It's saying being active is a non-negotiable, but how I'm active is up to me. And so in the book, I go through 4 fitness personalities: the home bunny, the gym bunny, the competitive bunny, and the busy multitasker, with the idea that, figure out your fitness personality and find a solution that works for you. So you can find your fit, so you can be active for the rest of your life. So that's the first book. And then the second book is called Your Fittest Future Self. And it's really just based on, I don't know, the issue that I see with so many of my clients, which is what we were talking about earlier, that it's so easy to set a goal, but it's much harder to do the steps necessary to actually create a reality. So, you can think about your future. I want to be fitter. I want to be healthier. I want to quit smoking, all that stuff. But that stuff all happens now. And so that book really is about, how do you create your recipe of success that works for you and that allows you to take the steps needed in the now to create the you that you want to be. So in the book, I break down the 3 sort of health recipes. So the workout mix, the nutrition mix, and the mindset mix. And I talk about sort of the pros and cons of lots of different diets, the pros and cons of lots of different ways of working out, including strength training and cardiovascular and mobility, the pros and cons of lots of different like mindset techniques like meditation and self-talk and all that stuff. And then I sort of say, okay, so here are the buffet of options, and like, how do you figure out, like, how do you take what's going to work for you and create a recipe that works for you so that you can act in the now in the way that will serve the future you. So those are the 2 books, and that's definitely what I'm giving away. But if you don't win the books, my website has so much information, like that idea of the Odysseus and the Sirens. I have a couple articles written about that. I have lots of sort of very effective and efficient, but sort of convenient strength training workouts you can do with resistance bands, your own body weight, lots of like examples of different interval training. Like we didn't even get into cardio, how there's steady state and interval training and HIIT training and all that stuff. And so there's articles about that on the website. And I go into in Your Fittest Future Self, definitely I go through the pros of the different types of cardio, interval training and all that stuff. So lots of information. And people can always get hold of me through the website or on social media and ask me any questions. I'm always around.
Perfect. That's amazing. And thank you for the generous gift. Of course, for everybody listening, more details about Kathleen, about her books, everything will be available in the show's notes as well. So Kathleen, I just want to say thank you once again for being a part of this conference. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And thank you for everything you do in this industry to be able to help transform lives. It's really truly an
Thank you.
honor to have you.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I think the thank you goes back to you as well. I always love having these chats with you. I think this is maybe our 4th. And because I love your energy and I really do appreciate that, as we were talking about before we started filming about how you're wearing yellow and how that's vibrant. And I love that positivity that comes through that color. But I think that the color represents who you are, and that the person who's trying to make the people who listen to you feel better about themselves. And that's really what I want. I want people to feel energized and empowered. And I love working with people like you who help, me do that. Spread the word that exercise is not about shame. It's about, self-respect and self-love.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Kathleen, and everyone. Thank you for listening.